We are going to get started here with our next guest speaker, Peg Fitzpatrick, and her name might sound familiar because she is actually the co-author of our book that we're using for our class with Guy Kawasaki, and there's Peg's name on the cover too. Hey, Peg.
Hey, I like to visit that in every bookstore I go to.
Right? Yeah, very fun. So everyone here in the audience is already reading your book, and we love it. Lots of great feedback from it. So thanks for putting that time into it.
Fantastic. Thanks everybody for reading it. I know it's assigned, but still thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those books that they don't sell back to what I've heard. So that's a good sign.
Cool.
So we're talking about social media strategy, and I know, Peg, that is definitely a broad topic here. But what you are inside of big brands like Google and Audi and Canva, and inside the social media strategy part. So what can you tell us are some of the action items that future social media managers that are here watching our interview can take hold of and take action on?
Such a good question. Social media strategy, it really evolving. Social media, it's like something that we were just saying right before we came on, like Google Hangouts are going away. What's next? Blab was a big thing. That's already gone. Like things change so fast. Technology just, even if it's got money behind it and people are using it, it's really a challenge. I saw one, I don't know if you saw the Washio app. It was this dry cleaning thing where you could go in the app and have people pick up your dry cleaning, and they raised like $7 million and it closed already.
I know, it's crazy.
Like,
It's
where did
like,
that money go and how did that, it's like technology, its strategy continues to evolve. And I think before we used to have this more like be on every single social platform and be everywhere and you have to be everywhere. And I think as time's going on, it's turning more into be really great on the platforms where you have the time to do it and don't try to be everywhere. At least that's how I've changed my social strategy, because it's just not possible to be on every social channel and do a great job. So a lot of the big brands actually have social media channel managers just for one channel. So for example, like a big company like Audi or a Motorola would have somebody who only manages Instagram, who only manages Facebook. And then they still might have an agency that they work with on top of that to help with creative and overall strategies and things like that. And I think that, with the big brands, they have the most money, but I think sometimes their ideas are good, and they trickle down. Not that a small business owner can have, one person for each thing, but as a social media manager, I think becoming more specialized is important. So you could be that person who manages Instagram and knows every single part of it. Like Facebook just continues to get more complicated. Like every time you turn it on, you're like, what did you do to the back end, Facebook? It's so complicated back there with ads and, insights and all the things in there. So I think specializing as we're evolving is becoming more important. What do you think, Lisa?
yeah, that's a great point. We were just talking about Facebook and how we've both pretty much been with Facebook since it started, but if you're just coming in right now to Facebook, I can't even imagine wrapping my brain around it and knowing the ad side and knowing also the organic side. It's impossible. So I think that's a great point to really specialize in a channel. And what are some other just things that should be on a checklist from, when creating a social media strategy for even, a small to medium sized brand or even a personal brand?
Well, I think it's kind of looking at the bigger picture of things and mixing your things in it. Like the strategy part is like you have your business goals and objectives and things that you want to, say you're an author, because Lisa, you're an author as well. Like if you're an author and you want to market your book, so you're going to have a strategy for your launch and you're going to work on, getting all the pieces ready for the book launch. But then you still have to do regular social media. So you're making other content, so you're not just talking about yourself. So it's kind of the strategies of looking at the bigger picture of these are my big goals: sell a book, get people to a webinar, email leads for a download for something like that, versus then you have your day-to-day stuff. So you kind of mix the two together, and that's kind of where your strategy is of reaching people where they are, where they're having the conversation. So it's kind of like seeing who your audience is, what their ages are, and then finding content that will be interesting to them. If they're college students, obviously your class is college students. So maybe Snapchat is the most interesting place for them to be. So then it's visual storytelling and, doing cool things with the app, with the filters and the, adding your Bitmoji and, staying hip on all the like current stuff, that just managing Snapchat in an effective way does take strategy, especially something like Snapchat where it's only a story. And it has to be a really good story. Otherwise people are going to skip through, tap through, scroll to the next one. You're going left. So in a market where it's so like fast paced and it needs to be really interesting, that you need to be even better there, which I think is one of the ways that made Snapchat a challenge for brands. But I think a lot of them, immediately outsourced to big agencies or grabbed influencers like Sean Duras, people who are just, they were like, awesome, I can tell stories. They're immediately like drawing on it to make like awesome things. And like some of the artwork I saw in the really early Snapchat, I was like, what the heck? How did they even do? Like, I was like, how did they even do that? Did you think that when you saw
Oh
them?
yeah. I was just so like, I really want to figure it out. And I mean, it's so creative. I mean, now with the whole Snapchat artists and filter makers, and I mean, it's created this whole niche of design industry. I think it's really cool. And I mean, I
Yeah.
just love watching what's happened with Snapchat over the past year. It's just completely, I mean, exploded is not even the word.
I
It's
know,
really,
and it's so creative. I read something a while ago that was talking about jobs that will never be outsourced in the future. You look at so many jobs in the past that don't even exist anymore, like being a secretary, which, being an administrative assistant, everybody types their own email. Everybody, like, there's so many jobs that have just dissolved, but the things that you can't outsource, that you can't like just have a robot do, are creative things, like
exactly.
creating art and writing. So being in social media to me is like the ultimate creative job, because you're making art, you're making, your copy needs to be creative and your writing needs to be awesome, which is one of the things I love about it. I love that no day is the same and it's all creative and fun. I mean, fun, I'm saying like fun. Let's do a social media campaign. That's fun. I
Right, right.
mean,
Well,
for me it is. Probably for you it is. Maybe everybody not, but
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I love the visual and creative side of it, definitely. And speaking of visual and creative, I mean, Peg, you are seriously like, I mean, you're so creative and all the visual stuff you do. I was looking at your website. I'm like, I was so envious of your website. So speaking of the visual side, you're like super sonic on the visual side of social
Mhm.
media. So can you give some tips on visual storytelling and what are some of your favorite tools and kind of hacks? And you have to
Sure.
be creative at the same time, but there are ways to balance it.
Yeah, I know. When blogging first started, I went blah blah blah. Sorry, but when blogging first started, like all you need to do is like write really great content, which is hard enough on its own. And now with a blog, you need really great visuals to go with it, which is where I started like really doing visuals. And then with Twitter, like all the social channels have evolved now to be super super visual. So if you want any of your content to be seen, which of course you do if you're creating great content, you need it to be visual. So that's why I really started getting into creating better visuals. And I cannot use Photoshop to save my life. It's great. I love Adobe, but I can't use Photoshop. Like I open it up and there's like a million, I don't even know what all the tools are in there. So I had to find other ways to make things that were just as good because they were going to be for big brands. So I found Canva, which I know you like as well. So I use Canva a lot for my designs. And I also use Spark by Adobe. Have you tried that one?
I tried it, yes, right when it came out. I saw your Facebook Live intro and
Yeah.
loved it. So tell us a little bit about Spark because I know we haven't talked about it with our class.
Yeah. Okay. So there's two, like Canva is a little bit more like in depth. You can move more pieces around. Adobe Spark is honestly, I think, easier to use than Canva even, because like when you put text in there, you can kind of drag and drop it and it keeps all the sizes the same. So like it's this size to that size and all this, it stretches perfectly. You don't have to worry about like spacing. Like it has a lot of ways that makes it easier for people who don't necessarily have time to like try to be a designer per se, but still want to make great graphics. So you can go into Adobe Spark on your phone. I love the phone app. And you can create something. And also like Canva, one thing that I like about both of them is you can use it on desktop, on your iPad, or your phone. I like the ability to go from one to the other, because when you're working with brands, I don't necessarily want to make everything on my phone. I want to use it, like on the bigger desktop so I can see things bigger, make sure it looks great. And it gives you more space to work with. Like on your phone, it's technically the same size pixels, but it's not, because it's a little screen, and I don't know, just I
It's
want to
cool
see it
if
in
you
my
want to just make like a little change, or there's a typo, or you want to change a price or something
yeah,
quick after
yeah.
you've already designed it on your desktop. It's awesome for on the fly stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So Adobe's just easy to use, and I like it. They have set color palettes in there. It's a little bit right now harder to use with a brand because you can't put your exact color in, but I just know they're going to move those things in because they have it all in Adobe. I'm sure they're going to move to like a more professional. Educators are one of the groups that they really want to work with, like students and teachers, because teachers have to create a lot of graphics and design stuff. So I'm hoping that they move towards that. But there's tons of great palettes in there. They have photos in there that you can legally use with permission. They're, all things that are Creative Commons acceptable, which is really important when you're creating graphics. You don't want to just grab something from Google and use it, because that's not okay, which I'm sure you probably talk about all that in your class.
Yeah, yep. Mhm.
But it's even important to know that there's some apps, actually some that I even used to use, that, based on their agreement, their terms of service, you can't use them for commercial purposes. And let's be honest, like no one ever reads the whole terms of service. But there was a couple that I used that I stopped using because you can't use them for commercial purposes. So anything you create in Canva or Adobe, you can use, on your business account, on your personal account. So those things are important. Like, it's hard to stay on top of all of the intricacies, but make sure that you follow some people who do follow all those things to make sure that you stay up, especially when you guys are brand managers out in the world. You're going to have so much to manage. Make sure there's a couple people that you follow, or like maybe just a couple big blogs like Social Media Examiner, that you read on a regular basis, because they have the top people writing for them, and then they're up to date on stuff. So it's important to figure out ways once you're out in the world doing these things. Like, it's great to learn in college, that's amazing, but it is going to change so rapidly as it keeps going, which I know you millennials love. I know you love that, but when you get out into the workplace, it does make it a challenge. So finding people who stay up to date on things, like that was something that I learned from somebody else. So apps and tools that you can legally use all the stuff, that's important too.
That's a great point. And so one of the other things I wanted to ask you, Peg, is so you're a brand ambassador, Guy is an evangelist for Canva. So how does that fit into the social media strategy? And I know that's a broad question too. So maybe you could just give us an example of how you're doing it and how
Right.
brands approach you.
So brand ambassadors and evangelists are two different things. Like Guy being evangelist, that is something that not a lot of brands have big evangelists. Of course, Guy made it a really, like, everybody wants to do that, because who wouldn't want to be that? But his is more like evangelizing. He actually does networking, and he helps connect Canva with more people. So it's similar to brand ambassadorship, but like brand ambassadorship with like the things that I've done. And like, of course, you see the Kardashians and Selena Gomez, people, big, huge stars are doing it, and they make a lot of money from brands. Selena Gomez is the most followed person on Instagram. She had a Pepsi, no, I think it was Coke, sorry, a Coke campaign where they had the song lyrics from her song, and she did like this really awesome picture. And it was like, it's the most liked photo ever on Instagram. It's an ad. For
Wow.
that was a brand ambassador thing. She's working with tons of brands like Louis Vuitton, and like she's at the highest level. So we can assume she makes millions for doing that. Me, on the other hand, don't make millions, but I love what I do. Social media, one of the things that's hard about it is either you work for a company and make money, or people who are trying to not work for a company and just do brand ambassadorships and things. That's a hard way to go, because there's people that have millions of followers, celebrities, of course, the big brands want to work with. But there's been studies that have shown that people who are have smaller amounts of people, like 5,000 to 50,000 Instagram followers, are micro influencers was the term that they use. Those people actually have more engaged audiences. So smaller audiences you can actually reach more people, because if Lisa and I post about something that we love, like for example, the Adobe video, like I did that as a brand ambassador, but I love social media design, and people who follow me know that I love talking about tools, and that I only share things that I actually use and that I really do love, whether I'm a brand ambassador or not. Like I think that's one of the important things, is that people stay true and authentic to who they are. Like it really needs to fit with who you are and what you talk about, and that makes a successful brand ambassador partnership. So that's, I think, where a lot of brands find people on Instagram. A lot of brands do connect right in direct message and say, hey, I have this blog, I'd love to work with you on this. So they look for people whose Instagram feeds they would like, who post things in a really, organic, interesting way, that have people that are engaged in their comments, that are commenting. And so they will connect directly on the social platform. Also, brands will look on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the one place that people do not realize, but brands will go through all your LinkedIn to see if you're professional, what you're working on, what you're doing. So if you guys haven't done it yet for an assignment, I hope you have, but if you haven't, make sure your LinkedIn is set up and keep it current with what you're working on, because brands will look for that, as well as people who are looking to hire you in social media. So that was kind of a surprising one. One of the brands that my friends work for, it's a very large credit card company, very large, like we may have one of them in our wallet. They looked back through all of her social for like a year.
Wow.
So they really scoped through everything to see if she was a good fit.
Yeah, the LinkedIn tip is a great tip too, because the same thing, helping brands connect with influencers, and they might be incredible on Instagram, but then they don't even have a profile on LinkedIn, and it's like,
Right.
okay, how does that happen?
I
But
know. And I actually got that from several big brands told
yeah,
me. I asked them specifically at conferences, like, how do you find people? Where do you connect with them? I asked like PR people, because I was interested to know, like, too, I mean, it's a common question, like, how do people connect and find someone to work with? And that was one of the places that people just didn't think about, but that's what the influence, that's what the brand said, that
okay.
LinkedIn profile, because brands like it, they can send you an actual email, that message, that little email message. Then the next thing would be like, make sure you check that every now and then, which I think everybody's bad at, honestly. But I do try to go. If you don't go there a lot, I think you can set it up so you get an email when you get a LinkedIn message. So you could do that if you're not going to go there a lot. But it was really important. So it's, people think it's not important, but it's a place where you can make money.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So just a couple more questions, and I know we're kind of getting short on time. So
Yep.
you brought up talking about Instagram and influencers, and how the 5 to 10,000 followers might get more exposure than the higher number. So that just brings me to the topic of algorithms and
Mhm.
Facebook's algorithm, and now Instagram has an algorithm. So what do you say to, like, what tips do you give on how to kind of break through the algorithm or stay ahead of the algorithm?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, of course, it's always post great content, be consistent, but I think the engagement piece is more important than ever, to be there to comment, respond to comment on other people's things. I know in particular, like Instagram stories, now the ones that you see on the top, those are ordered by who you interact with the most.
Mm.
They're deciding whose stories you see up there. So if Lisa has a brand ambassadorship coming up and she hasn't been on Instagram doing any stories at all, and she hasn't engaged with people that haven't engaged with her, Instagram might not show people your stories.
Yeah, I might have some catching up to do.
Yeah, yeah. So staying consistent is important. So I think the engagement piece is a lot of where the algorithms are coming in. They're deciding what's popular based on how many people are, and it depends on the different social platform. They have different. I mean, I'm guessing, of course, because no one knows the true algorithm features, but on Facebook, you can like, comment, or share in that order. Like is the lowest, then there's comment, and then there's share. So Facebook says the more people who share this, the more popular it is. And on Instagram, though, I think the like is the lowest, and then commenting is the highest. And there's only two. People can't share on there. So the commenting, because there's only two factors instead of like three on Facebook, so it makes it even more important. It's like 50% of it. But I almost think that they weigh the commenting even more to show people what's going on. So the engagement piece, because it's, relationships, and so just blasting your content out without engaging with people on your content is just, kind of the kiss of death, I think, for the algorithms.
Exactly, exactly. And so the last question I have, and thank you so much for this insight, is for the future social media managers that are watching this, what advice would you give them? What are you going to look for if you're hiring a social media, even entry-level social media? What's important for them to know?
That's a really great question. I would say number one, creativity, because we've already mentioned that. I think that obviously all the education you get is great, but I think, for somebody to be good at social media, it boils down to that X factor of like, can you work under pressure? Can you type and be accurate for like spelling? And, I think all of that matters. I think we went a little bit backwards for a while where people were, shortening words and things, but I think it's really back to like good grammar counts. Depending on the brand you work with, some of the younger, hip brands do use, slang and, things like on fleek and like current terms and stuff. So a lot of it's like staying up on pop culture, being grammatically accurate, creative, and willing to like just put a lot of effort in, because social media is a great job, but it is a hard job. A lot of companies do have set hours, so it's not like, you don't have to work all the hours, so that's good. But I think creativity and staying on top of the trends is really important. What do you think, Lisa? What do you look at when you're hiring?
Yeah, I agree. I think you also have to have you have to like to be social,
Yes.
and that has to kind of come naturally. And a lot of times, I mean, people that aren't necessarily social and in real life are more, they're more social, kind of behind the screen type of thing. But I also think that you have to have thick skin, but you also have to be super friendly. So it's
Yeah,
just that balance
you
of
do. You
not
do.
taking, things personal that might come across from, let's say, if you're types of messaging where somebody's just irate and social and causing all kinds of problems, you can't
Yeah.
really fight back with them.
No, you can't. And then maybe find one special skill that you have that would bring something extra, like be good at design, like if you're with Photoshop or video, like those are two skills that are highly marketable. Maybe not necessarily Photoshop, but design in some way that you can, that you're bringing a little extra value with your social media skills, because a lot of times people have to wear more than one hat.
And I also love your tip about really being specialized in a channel, if that's possible, where you're not pigeonholing yourself that you only do, let's say, Instagram or you only do Facebook, but to say, if a brand is hiring for Snapchat, to not just know Snapchat from the personal standpoint, but also to really be have that experience from the brand standpoint on that channel, because I think that is the hardest channel right now, is for brands to really get their arms around, because if they're not on it, they don't understand how to hire somebody and make sure somebody's doing it right.
Right. Exactly. And Snapchat is, so then you would want to have examples of brands that do a good job. So you're following some brands on the channel that you decide to specialize in. And then it's not just saying they're funny or they're fun, but breaking down like, why does it work from a brand standpoint? Like what did they do? Did they do a Snapchat takeover with an influencer? That's really popular. So they hire someone to like run their Snapchat for them, then they're doing the stories and doing the things. So it's kind of staying up. Yeah, picking one and just really specializing in a channel would be helpful. But of course, as a social media manager, you'd probably have to really be versed in all of them, but just being a whiz and, one of the newest ones, I think is helpful.
Do you have a favorite on Snapchat, a favorite brand? So mine is Warby Parker. I really love what they do.
I tend to just go through the beginning and look at the things in Discover, because the stuff in Discover is so good.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I like to just see, I always like what Snapchat shows me in there.
The content is incredible, for sure.
Yeah, because the brands that are in there are paying so much money. They work so hard. And I'm always like scrolling down. Like Cosmopolitan is one of the ones they do like funny quizzes, funny stuff, like anything to discover amazing. So
Mhm.
I do like to just kind of go see what's happening on Snapchat. Like one of the things that I think they excel at is like every time you go, it's a new experience. You have different filters, it's choices, there's something new. They keep it super fresh. You know, where Instagram, they've made some changes, but where you can like make a flower crown today and then make a beard on yourself. Like I don't know, like there's something in the Bitmojis. Do you use the Bitmojis on
Yeah.
Snapchat? That's
Wow.
just fun as heck. I mean, that
Yeah.
is fun. Like I use them everywhere now. I tweet that. I had a Bitmoji before, but like integrating into there, it's just fun. It's like
It's
just a fun way to express yourself.
brilliant. Brilliant. And I like to change outfits as often as I can think of it.
I do too. I'm like, I wonder, do other people change their outfit every day in their little Bitmoji? Because I'm like, oh shoot, I wore that yesterday. And I
Yeah.
go,
I'm
I'm
more like I had a summer outfit and now I just changed it to kind of a back to school outfit.
That's good. They added some new outfits in there too.
Well, Peg, thank you so much. And I just have to say, everybody, you can check out Peg's website at pegfitzpatrick.com. Check out all of her social channels because what she shows in Pinterest and Instagram and what she's sharing is all very creative and very on the spot. So there's so much to learn. And and also we can also watch for you on Facebook Live too. How often are you on Facebook Live?
I try to go every Friday, do a thanks a latte
Okay.
Q&A. So if you guys have questions, you can leave. I created a little form I'm going to start sharing. So if you see it on Twitter to ask any questions about social media, you can throw it in there.
So maybe we'll do that as an assignment coming up is to
Okay.
have one of your next Fridays that where everybody's going to come on.
Ooh. Okay. Or just and I'll get my link out there ahead of time then so people
Okay.
can ask a question. So
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah, we can do that during our Facebook Live or live streaming video week, which is not for a couple weeks. So I'll keep you
Cool.
posted.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Peg, and hang out for 1 second after we stop the broadcast.
Sure.
Okay.
Happy reading, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.